Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the Other Side of Success podcast. My name is Tyler Rutledge, and I am your host. Today, we've got a great one coming to us. We've got Niki Noto Palmer, who is a dynamic multimedia personality with more than 15 years of experience. She's been on air with ESPN, hosted for professional sports teams like the Atlanta Falcons, and serves on the board of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Today, she continues her broadcast career and pours her passion into mentoring student athletes through media training. Niki lives in Atlanta with her husband, 3 kids, and a rescue pup. If she's not at home in a studio or on a sideline, she's probably volunteering at her kids' school or competing on the tennis court. Niki, welcome to the show.
Yay! We're doing it, Tyler. We're here. We're ready.
We are. For those of you that are tuning in, this is about our third go at this. We've had to reschedule. It's been technical difficulties, internet, you name it. But hey, we made it.
Not today, Satan.
Not today.
Not today.
Good night, nurse. Well, listen, Niki, thank you so much. I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too.
I guess you and I met, back in 2009. Yeah, it was 2009, right before the national championship. You were recording, what was the show? Road Trip.
It was Road Trip. I was a production assistant schlepping all the things.
Yeah. And that was pretty cool. That was my first ever experience of like seeing the backside of a show,
Right.
I even had a little, maybe 30-second blip where I was on the show. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, a little cameo. You know what's so funny, Tyler, is like now with my kids' ages and they're so into, sports, TV, they're kind of understanding maybe what like mom did, what dad did, and sort of putting pieces together. And I cannot find those DVDs anywhere. So I'm hoping that it'll show up here in this house real soon because I feel like they're at the age now where they would be like, that was so cool. You were at this stadium and you talked to this coach. And I was like, yeah, mom was cool at one point. Definitely not now, but maybe at one point.
Oh, man, I'm pretty sure that some of those Road Trip episodes are on YouTube.
I think they are. We pulled up, I want to say it was Clemson, Georgia. Clemson, Georgia is still out there, I believe, but there were so many good ones. But that was a lot of fun. You got to see like behind the scenes of what it all takes to pull off a live show.
Yeah, it's really neat. There's a lot of cool stuff about TV that I was exposed to for a brief amount of time. Listen, so I want to dig back into obviously your bio. When you think about those things, 15 years of experience in TV and broadcasting.
Yeah.
Now you're a mom, multiple kids, you're still involved in some TV and stuff like what does it sound like to hear those things?
It's funny when you said 15 years ago, that's bizarre to me. We're already, and I say we because you're there too, we're already now in this little age bracket that we're selecting a different age bracket now. It's going like a little more north.
Yes.
And it's so cool to age because with age comes wisdom and new experiences. And I feel very fortunate and blessed that I got to experience some really cool stuff and essentially have my dream job, Tyler. Like have my dream job at a super ripe green age when a lot of my friends were getting their masters or extending their education in a different way. And I kind of got thrown into the gauntlet.
Right.
On national television at a really young age and learned some really good lessons and learned some really hard lessons. I wouldn't change it. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I'm excited to dig into that and kind of talk through with our listeners about kind of how you got out of it and some of the reasons why and things like that. But I think one of the things that's so cool and hearing you talk about it, and I can't say that this was my case coming out of college, is that you had your dream job. Right. I think a lot of people just don't, for whatever reason, chase. I'm not a big, if you put your mind to it, you can do it because, there are limitations, right? There are limitations. Yeah. We have to get certain breaks in life. Ultimately, we know, you and I do, that it's God's plan that will come to fruition. But I think it's really cool that you can say, I had my dream job and that has changed as you've gotten older and wiser. And you can look back at that and say, what a gift and a blessing, right? That's really neat.
Well, I think we get caught in this place. And I still remember this, Tyler, when I was going to like declare my major at Alabama. And I remember my mom was at Reese Pfeiffer with me, and, they were telling me, there's only 15 kids that are going to be telecommunication and film
Yeah.
majors. Like, are you sure? And my mom's like, are you sure? And I'm going, I am 100% sure. I was
Right.
8 years old and I knew I want to work for ESPN. I love sports. Like, that was just the only option, right? I
Yeah.
mean, now there's a million options, but in my 8-year-old head, that was the only option.
Hmm.
And if anyone were to ask you about me, they know I'm very determined. And when there's something I'm going after, I'm going to go for it.
Right.
And so, looking back, probably every parent wants their kid to be a doctor or a lawyer or someone with a business degree that you can
Right.
always find a job with. And here I am going, no, but I'm so passionate about this,
Wow.
right? And I think one thing that they don't tell you is that this career, the jobs can be transient, right? Like, you
Right.
don't have to have that one job forever and ever. I think at one point, did I want to be on a national network for 20 something years? Sure. But with the story that I knew that the Lord was writing for me and how clear he made it for me, he said, trust me.
Mm.
And my posture was completely like this, open handed surrender of going, okay, Lord, because I got to, like, my dream job's over here, my dream
Hmm.
network's over here. What do you have that's better?
Mm.
Right? What do you have that's better? And then every little step along the way, Tyler, he has made it sweeter and greater, more fulfilling
Mm.
than I could ever imagine.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
and so let's talk about that. The road
Yeah.
that you had to toe to get you there. Tell us a little about your
Hmm.
family. I know a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
How did you grow up?
Yeah. I grew up in Birmingham, and I was an only child. So I had a really big extended family though, lots of Italians. And which is, look at me, I'm using my hands. We use our
Yeah.
hands a lot. We talk real loud.
Yeah.
So it was a natural move, I guess, to go into communication. But, you know, the only time I ever got in trouble in school, which was rare and never, was for talking. So, I've always had a creative spirit and I've always loved storytelling. In fact, my dad and my grandfather and my two great uncles had a production company. And back in the day, they actually, if it was a Burt Reynolds film or a Robert Redford film, they were the cinematographers for it.
Oh,
So
cool.
I grew up with a dad that was always saying, you need more headroom here, or, that's not the best shot or angle. And so I always
Right.
had this like production bug in the back of my head. And
That's
then
cool.
when I was with my dad every other weekend, because my parents were divorced, he took me to the golf course. We were always playing something, doing something. And my gosh, I mean, ESPN was always on. Like, I had no
Yeah.
other option. Right. And so that was just kind of what was around me. And, um, I played sports growing up. I was always doing some activity with a ball. Like, I just,
Right.
not soccer. That was the one sport no, was not for me. But I quickly learned that, I'm not going to be playing at the next level. I like to think I played golf in high school. I like to think if I would have like taken it more seriously, maybe, but not so much. And so
Mhm.
I figured, this natural instinct and desire to know people, right? I'm not one of these surface level people. If you're in my life, I'm going to annoy the heck out of you. I'm checking in on you. I'm saying, how can I pray for you this week? What's triggering you this week? Knowing your life story, that's just who I am. And so
Mhm.
there was just this natural translation towards storytelling, right? And that's what I fell in love with. I'm just a naturally curious person and I want to know about people's lives and what makes them tick and what gives them life. And that was just, that's where I landed. And
Yeah.
essentially what we do when we're covering sports, it's storytelling. Or now I'm sitting at a really cool seat where I get to help people tell their personal story.
Mm, that's so cool. That's how the show was born, was just
Yeah.
me telling my own personal story, I feel like over and over again. And then,
Mhm.
kind of deflecting from me and saying, well, what's your background? You seem to be
Yes.
pretty successful. And then come to find out that nobody has had
Mhm.
just like a very easy road and that there's a whole lot of the
No.
behind the scenes that folks
Mhm.
just don't see, whether it's the internal mental health battles, struggles, the doubting
Yeah.
of the faith, right? Like, I mean, all these things are
Yeah.
life. But you, as somebody who's been on TV, you don't
Mhm.
put your bad stuff out there. You put your best stuff out there,
Yeah,
right?
or people see the bad stuff happen in the moment. I
Mhm.
mean, my gosh, again, I was super green. Twitter was just coming out, and boy, everyone had opinions.
Yeah.
Nobody really prepares you for that as you're all learning together how to respond with grace, right? How
Right.
not to just get behind the keyboard and come at them like they're coming at you.
Mm.
And so you learn a lot of like really hard lessons. And
Right.
I find great joy now working with student athletes. Where I live, specifically in Georgia now, are public. I do a lot with like my kids' school and some schools around the metro Atlanta area. But one in particular that I do a lot of work with, they live, or they're obviously in my community, but they were public school national champions. I mean, you're talking like the pedigree of football and specifically guys that are playing at the next level, all these, power four teams. It's pretty incredible. And so I
Mhm.
have a really cool opportunity, an amazing relationship with them of how I work with these guys one on one. And I'm going, hey, like, you're an 18-year-old kid, you're a 17-year-old kid, 16-year-old kid, and they expect you to respond and communicate maybe like a 21-year-old or a
Yeah.
23-year-old, and you just don't have that experience yet. And so a lot of it right now, Tyler, is basic people skills. It's
Yeah.
basic communication skills. It's basic, hey, when, and some of these guys might come from different circumstances, right? And it's, you need to look people in the
Yeah.
eye. You need a firm handshake. And when they say your name, hi, my name is Nikki. It's nice to meet you. You repeat it back so you remember it, you
Mm.
know? And so that has brought me such joy of helping these kids start to tell their story, right?
Yeah.
Not be afraid of showing who they are and whose they are and what they value, because
Yeah.
they more than ever have an opportunity utilizing social media to let people into their head and heart, right? And at the same time, I mean, you're going down both lanes, right? Of saying, hey, how are you protecting your head and your heart
Mm.
while you're on social media, you know?
Golly. Yeah. That's by the time our children are in that age, it's going to be crazy, right?
Hope it's gone.
Yeah,
No.
I'm with you on
We
that.
we have to give them the tools of how to deal with hard stuff, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm saying prayers with my 8-year-old in bed last night, and she's having conversations of feeling left out. And she what's so cool, Tyler, is she's physically telling me what her body is telling her.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, mommy, my heart's racing really fast. Sometimes I get chill bumps, and then I don't know what to say, but I know I need to say something. So guess
Wow.
what? We have those same telltale signs in our adult bodies,
Yeah.
but it's happening at 8 years old. And then it's happening, with these 18-year-old kids that,
Right.
they've got other stuff going on with their bodies. So it's a lot to juggle these days.
Did you grow up in a family where, like, you knew what that was, like, the anxiety, the stomach, the heart racing? Like,
No.
I feel like our parents' generation, and my mom listens to every episode, so no knock on mom, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't a thing. But at our
Hmm.
house, we are so, so committed to allowing our children to be in
Yeah.
tune with their bodies and understand,
Yeah.
like, what they're feeling.
It,
My daughter
it's,
Lucy can pinpoint anxious because she's like, "My tummy
yeah.
feels upset." And I'm like, "Well, that's
Yeah.
exactly how daddy's is when I get
Yeah.
anxious, right?"
Yeah, we talk a lot about feelings are okay, certain behaviors are not,
Right, yeah,
right?
of course.
And so, with my 8-year-old daughter, she is a big feeler, and I love
Mm,
that about her. I'm like, "Honey, that is God gave you that superpower. You are going to connect with people because of those big feelings, and that's amazing. Like, we're
mhm,
gonna we're gonna figure this out together." However, I don't know if it's the best to, like, run away and cry all the time.
mhm,
Like, let's get to the point of why we want to run away and cry. And then she goes, well, because I get embarrassed. I'm like, boom, that's great. You can vocalize to me that you feel embarrassed. Guess what? Here's the laundry list of how often mommy gets embarrassed. And it happens a lot,
yeah,
right? So, it's, we're coaches, right?
mhm,
Like, we're coaches in so many regards right now as parents. And then, anyone that we run into. And that's a new role that I don't take lightly.
golly, I think, man, it's a good conversation. I didn't realize we were gonna go here, but, that's what I
You
love
know,
about
it
these conversations is
Yeah,
that this is the other side. This is the part that people don't see, right?
right,
Tell me a
yeah.
little bit about we're talking about how you're poured into all these young
Mhm.
kids. At what point
Mhm.
did you know that you were gonna be able to break into ESPN? Not, like, physically, but, like, "Okay, hey, I've got an
Yeah.
opportunity to get on ESPN." Who helped you get there?
So I call him. Here's what's so cool. I call him my Mr. Miyagi. His name's Ron, and he saw something in me and gave me a chance of a lifetime. And at the time, Tyler, I was a production assistant on that show, and then I was living in Atlanta, and then I got offered what I thought was a dream job. I had the opportunity to do my first sideline games, which this was back when spring games were all the rage.
Mhm.
They were on
Yep.
television. They were on CSS at the time, Comcast Sports Southeast, which doesn't exist anymore. But that was where you went to go watch spring games. So I got to do Auburn's spring game when they came off their national championship. I got to do Alabama's spring game when they came off their national championship. And this is again, I'm 20. I'm 1 year removed from college,
Yeah, it's like
right?
22,
Like they won.
23.
Yes. So 1 year removed from college, and I had the opportunity to do these games. And then simultaneously, the Braves offered me to be their reporter. And I was like, hold up. Like, that's an immediate job. That's my dream job. That's what I want to do. And I just learned to seek wisdom really early. And, I had a mentor tell me when you're talking about parenting and things like that. And, you and I both know our parents can't give us everything we need. There's one source that gives us everything we need, and that's it. But
Yeah.
while we're on this journey together, there are so many people that the Lord's going to put into your life and just be sponges with that wisdom. This one time I called Ron and I said, "Hey, I just need some advice right now." And at the time, he was VP of I think programming at ESPN, and I met him through the show that I was a production assistant on. And so relationships matter, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
telling these guys. I go, "You guys, relationships
Mm.
matter. You have no idea how it's going to take you somewhere." And so I called him up and I said, "I've got this job over here. It's working with the Braves. I thought I always wanted to do that, but then I've got these SEC games. Like I'm covering SEC football opportunities.
Mm.
What do I do?" And he goes, "Okay." He's like, "That's amazing. I have something for you, but you're really going to have to trust me." And I said, "Okay." And that trust was so easy because of my relationship of meeting him, knowing who he was, knowing how he's a straight shooter.
Mhm.
And I appreciated that about him, still do. And so I trusted him. I did the SEC games. It got me a new reel, right? Because now it's like, oh, no, I'm on the sideline covering college football. Like I'm doing it. Sent that to ESPN. Long story short, Ron and I connected, and he said, "Hey, I have this gig for you. I think it's the perfect fit for you." And it was ultimately hosting Road Trip. And then once I did Road Trip, which for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, back when we had a really cool show on ESPN, and we would travel every week. We were at a different matchup. A lot of times those matchups lined up with game day, which was cool. And then other times it was just these, storied traditions, whether it was, Penn State, Michigan, we got to do the first ever night game in the big house, which was like insane. And then you're doing things like Yale and Harvard too, and you're learning all of the really cool traditions that those two schools programs have had. And those schools have been around forever. We got to do some really cool stuff, but it was, because of Ron, he took a chance on me and I'll
Mm.
never forget it. In fact, it's actually very, very cool and such a cool God wink. This summer, our family, we went to Greenbrier right when school got out. Like I'm talking, it was still in May when we went, and I'm in the hotel and Michael's with the kids somewhere, and I'm going up these stairs, and I see this woman and her son's with her, and I go, and it was Ron's wife. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Is he here? Like, you guys are, is he here?" She goes, "Yeah, he's checking us in downstairs in the lobby." And I was like, they live in New York. They happen to be in town with their son. He was graduating college. And I had been wanting to see him for so long, to give him a hug, and it was the coolest God thing. We just happened to be in the same place, same time for one
Mm.
night. He was there for one night. We're in West Virginia. We're coming from Atlanta. It was bizarre, so cool. And I will just always be thankful for people like that in my life. He got to meet my family.
Yeah.
It was just really cool. But there are always people like that are on your journey
Yeah.
that you don't know why when you first meet them. And without him, I never would have been able to do my dream job, which led me to so many other things. And it was a
Yeah.
simple yes, I believe in you, and that's all it took. And we need our kids, we need these student athletes to have more people in their life that say, "Hey, I believe in you."
Yeah.
I know you can do this. And the more that you have people that, yes, are pouring into you saying that, I mean, thoughts become actions and actions become habits, right? And those
Yeah.
habits turn into the character of who we are.
Mm.
And the more that we can get people believing that, I mean, yeah, the sky is the limit. And I think maybe, you know what, Tyler, maybe I was just like one of those gullible kids that just was like, I'm going to work here and I'm going to do it. But it happened.
Yeah.
And I truly like pour that into my children of like, you believe it, you can achieve it, you know? And yeah, so I think I'm also super stubborn, so I'm not gonna quit.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I remember when you got the road trip job because I think did you
Mhm.
you came in right behind Jen Brown, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
So I
Jen
got to learn so many cool things from her.
well, and I
Yeah.
think Jen promoted up into kind of like, I don't wanna say the Erin Andrews type role, but I mean, she kinda moved up in with the
Mhm.
ESPN, and then I know she got into some of
Yeah.
the UFC stuff, and so, like, when you came in, I was like, "Oh, man, like, this is gonna be a fast track to we're gonna start seeing" this was back when people actually watched
Yeah.
SportsCenter. I was
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
thinking, "Man,
Mhm.
Nikki's about to take it to the next level." Let me ask
Yeah,
you
and
this
yeah.
real quick. Thinking about clearly your faith is very,
Yeah.
very important to you.
Mm.
Have you always followed the Lord closely like that? Was there ever a point in time where you
Yeah.
drifted or, tell me about that. Like, how did faith and sports intersect?
Yeah, I feel like the Lord has had just a hold on me. I've said it before. I'm like, whoever was praying for me, thank you.
Yeah.
He has just been so good to me.
Yeah.
As a kid and like, as an only kid with divorced parents and there's a lot of stuff that just comes with that, right? Of you
Yeah.
feel alone
Mhm.
and then even like going through like grade school and high school, I was always one of those people like I like to think I was friends with a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I'm really like a one-on-one um person. Like
Yeah.
I love going deep and I know realistically you can't go deep with a lot of people. And so when I have like those one or two people in my life, that takes me super far. But, did I stray? I think you know, like in high school I was very like by the book, I was not one of these kids that like went out and like partied or whatever. In college, I think my freshman year, I was that kid that I wanted to go far. I wanted to go far and I wanted to do my own thing and I was ready and I worked all the jobs to try to make it happen. And then by the time I got to Alabama, like I was so laser focused on what I wanted to do. I really didn't have a social life.
Yeah.
But I can look back and pinpoint there are certain times where he's been like, "Oh no, come on back. Come on back."
Uh-huh.
And what's wild is like even as a 38-year-old, Tyler, like just because you have a strong faith, life's not going to be easy. I
Right.
mean, he gives the greatest battles to his strongest warriors, right?
Mhm.
Like it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And I mean, there have been times like, yes, whether it's with children, with marriage, with jobs, I mean, without it, we would all crumble.
Mm.
But with him, and when you can just be transparent and you can have grace and you can have, understanding and say, man, like I messed up here.
Yeah.
Thank God, like there is someone that we can go to and ask for forgiveness and know that he can wash and make all things new. And that is like the coolest, greatest gift because I mean, like I said, just because you have a strong faith and in fact, I took a spiritual gifts test and I was 25 out of 25 faith.
Yeah.
So,
I have that written on my
like
notes here.
yeah, and so it's like I might be super stubborn and I might be like, super laser focused when it comes to stuff that I want to do, but by gosh, that faith, he's going to test it. And it happens and it's one of those things where it's like, "Oh yeah, like your way's better." Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just because there's strong faith there, it doesn't mean that we're going to fall. It doesn't mean that we're going to have a misstep. But all of that is just such a true reminder of like, we are so small compared to
Yeah.
how big he is, right? Like, and it brings you to your knees. Like it really brings you to your knees and you go, I am nothing
Mm.
without you. Nothing.
It's in man, I received that. That's preach, preach, girl. We were in church yesterday and we had a guest pastor in town. His name's Brad Bigney, and he wrote a book called
Mm-hmm.
Gospel Treason, which is basically a book about
Mm-hmm.
idols of the heart and
Yeah.
little tiny idols that we create, like sports and our jobs and our
Yeah.
even our kids and spouses, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things. But
Mhm.
one of the things that he said, I can't remember the exact scripture, but what he was talking about, he was like, my life's been really good at times. And he used
Yeah.
the metaphor of like soaring. And he was like, I think I've soared
Mhm.
in my life 3 times. And he was like,
Mm.
but
Yep.
it's the walk, and you're taking that one step at a time, whether it's because your marriage is stressful, you got to keep taking a step, right? And a step
Yeah.
and a step and a step. And I was
Yeah.
just sitting there thinking like Moses walking through the wilderness with the Israelites and how many
Yeah.
steps they had to take before they were able to get into the promised land.
Right.
And that's always, patience has been something that's really been my biggest struggle. I came from a divorced
Yeah, for
household
you.
as well, and I got sucked into that performance based life. And I took a
Yep.
career where you have to perform at a high level to make income, but then also to
Yeah.
receive the awards, the accolades, and the attention.
Like, you see me? You see me?
Yeah.
You see me over
And
here? Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I know that TV is similar to that. I know that
Mhm.
that career path is a size you up career path. Like,
It can be, I mean, I I haven't done a drug a single day in my life, but it's like a drug. I mean,
yeah.
and what's so cool is like walking alongside that with, my husband because of back when he was playing football, it was
Mhm.
so cool because we were going through it together, right? And
Yeah.
the energy, that dopamine of like the first life hit, what you feel like when he walks out of the tunnel or when he makes that catch or that touchdown or makes that block, whatever it was, it's addicting, right?
Yeah.
Because Tyler, when I got that, like when I did my first game, then it was like, okay, I want to do this game or I want to cover this team or I want to do a Friday night game. I want to do a Saturday ABC game. And
Mm,
then you get there and then you go, now what? I always knew that I wanted a family. And
right.
so when I stepped back a little bit and I started doing more regional stuff, so I was kind of in like covering ACC stuff, which was nice because then I that's when I started like having kids, right? And then I started scaling back with the Falcons. I was their in-game host, and then there were all of these things, right, where you're going, I'm doing it, I'm balancing, and then I'm going, okay, but then what?
Mm,
And my story can be completely different than other people. I know so many wonderful women that are still out there doing their thing, being a mom and making it all happen. But for me, and a lot of it is like the way that I grew up, I just wanted to be present,
mm,
and I had a mom that was a single working mom, and I was at daycare all the time, and I had a lot of babysitters, and not saying that
mm,
there's anything wrong with that, but I knew I have so much that I have gone to counseling for, that I understand why I am the way that I am, that I knew that my greatest gift to my kids, and this is a privileged thing to say, if I could be at home and still do my work, but to do it in a way where I can do both, that's what I want.
absolutely.
And that was a lot of prayer. That was a lot of obviously conversations among Michael and myself. And I'm really proud that I've been able to do both and do it in a way that works for our family.
Yeah.
And again, my story is not like, others. I can only tell my story. I can't tell anyone else's, but I realize that, when you're honed in to and praying boldly of like, Lord, like, can you just show me the way? Like, I need
Mm,
you to show up and show out. And Tyler, when I say that, like, I guess it was COVID, and I was doing some other work, and I wanted to do more broadcasting, and I remember specifically sitting in my island right over there, writing down exactly what I was looking for. And it sounds super greedy, honestly. Like, it sounds
mm,
very greedy. I was like, okay, I still want to do broadcasting, but I want to be part-time, but I don't want to be traveling and, being on location at all of these places. How am I going to do that with like 2 kids or a newborn, or, my sweet mother-in-law lives here, but like without a ton of help. Right. And when I say that my phone rang the next day, and a job fell out of the sky that I didn't even know existed, and it hit every single one.
golly.
And that's when, Tyler, I'm like, again, 25 out of 25 faith here. Either I am an idiot and like, and just stubborn as I'll get out, or the Lord finds such delight when we pray boldly, and he
Mm,
knows our heart, and he knows the reasons of why I'm praying certain prayers, right? And he honored that. And I'm not doing it now, but at this season, that was exactly where he called me to be. And I
Yeah.
firmly know that, and I believe that because of all the residuals of what came afterwards, right? And that's what's so dang cool is I'm like, it's why I just want to shout it from the rooftops. I'm like, if
Right.
y'all just trust and believe, like he continues to, you know, to show me the way. And then then things were coming after that. And I started like doing corporate hosting, and then I'm still doing the high school thing. And then, the bug of like wanting to teach and coach really took me over because I'm going, I'm good. I'm genuinely good if I'm never on television again, if I never host again, if I'm never in the corporate event setting, I am good. I'm good because he always shows up and he always leads me to where he wants me to be. And right
Amen.
now I'm still doing high school football. I'm still, hosting events, and I'm, becoming more active with our church. And then I'm helping with media training that gives me such life, right?
Right.
And so I think at the end of the day, it's just that friendly reminder of like whatever place or rut, if you will, you might be in. Do you see what I did there with rut? Whatever rut that you might feel like you might be in, he can pull you out. And
Yeah.
nothing is final. Like nothing is final, right? Like I thought I was at the end of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to cover another game for ESPN. What is my identity now?
Wow.
And then he softens your heart and he opens up these windows, and when my arms or my hands are like this, and he just goes, trust me,
Mm.
wake up, trust me. I've been here all along. And then you're
Yeah.
like, okay, yep, you're right.
I think, I want to know more about that because, especially when we're talking about the other side of success, I mean, I think
Yeah.
obedience is so important. And one thing that I've always struggled with, and I know for a fact this comes from childhood trauma,
Yeah.
is control and
Yeah.
the idea of surrender. I
Yeah.
talk about
It's
this with
scary.
Allie all the time and friends, people that are not necessarily mentors, but just people I talk to is like, I've
Yeah.
always had a problem with surrender as like
Yeah.
giving up, like throwing in the white flag. And that's when
You're not successful.
my inner child comes out and
Mhm.
takes over as the word surrender means
Yeah.
it's time to quit. You've done what you can, you walk away. Obviously, from a faith perspective, that's not what surrender is. So like,
Mm-mm.
how do you find yourself? I know that your spiritual gift, faith, right? But I mean,
Mhm.
still, you can have faith and struggle with this
Yeah.
hands open surrender
Mhm.
concept. How do you get
Yeah.
there? There's people that are going to listen to this that may be struggling, females,
Yeah.
even men, me, in their
Mhm.
career or what's next? What do you have for me? Like, how do you get
Yeah.
there?
I'm a people before task person. And looking back, a lot of it is people, right? A lot of it is staying in touch with people. A lot of it is just seeking mentors, right? That are walking alongside of you. And I think another thing too, which this is hard probably, is just being vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
It's being vulnerable of like, "Oh, man, like I feel my tank is empty. Maybe your bank account's empty. Maybe opportunities seem empty, but you can't quit, right? Like you can't quit. And you have to have people that are in your corner, and like at least two people that are in your corner that are walking this walk with you, that are praying with you, that are thinking of you. And again, a lot of it comes down to people and purpose, right? Like we all have a purpose. And I think
Yeah.
we the purpose might change, right? As you go through these transient seasons, but at the end of the day, we're all called to a purpose. So
Mm.
when we can kind of figure that out, then it's okay, well then how do I start making things happen? Because am I sulking? Am I having a pity party? Because trust me, I had plenty of those days over
Yeah,
there on
for
my
sure.
couch with like dark lights and going, what do I do now? But you have to come to the end of yourself. You have to come to the end of yourself, and you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I struggle with this, this, this. And then on the flip side, okay, what is my purpose and who are my people? And I think with that, like that kind of equation, I mean, a lot can happen there. A lot can happen there.
I love that. What so many much. So like you're so rooted in this deal and it's clear that you've received blessing after blessing after blessing for being,
Mhm.
at least from the outsider's perspective, just from
Yeah.
being obedient in your faith.
Yeah.
With this shift from career, like at what
Mhm.
point did you realize I don't need this big stage to
Mhm.
fill my purpose?
Yeah. I think because, I mean, it's my family.
Mm.
It's this past Saturday, and I'll be honest, Tyler, like, sometimes it's really hard for me to watch football on Saturdays. I'm seeing all of my, colleagues, people that I worked with, the women that we came up together. Sometimes it's really hard to watch college football on Saturdays. When I'm at the soccer field and we have games at 9, 10:30, and noon, and I get to coach my 5-year-old, my 4.5 little girl, and all of her buddies were all on the same team together, and I'm like, this is what I don't wanna miss. This
Mm.
is what I've been called to do. I've been called to love on my children. I've been called
Mm.
to be able to coach and be there every Tuesday for practice and every Saturday, and I think sometimes we wrestle, and I know you're kinda right there with me, but success looks different.
Mhm.
When I'm on my, deathbed, no one's going to be talking about what game I covered. No one's going to be talking about what game I covered. I hope that people are saying, like, she loved well, she was intentional, she showed up when I needed her. She asked how I could pray for her and she meant it. That's what I hope people take away. Like, I,
Yeah.
I don't care about what game I covered or what network I was on or any of that. But and I think there was that at one time with my identity, I assumed I had to be on said network to have influence. And guess what?
Mm.
You don't. You don't.
No.
Does it give you maybe a platform? Sure. But how many coaches in your life, Tyler? How many coaches in your life never made it to that level? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Well, every one of my coaches.
It doesn't matter. So I really think, yeah, it's family. And, my husband is so grounded and rooted in who he is.
Yep.
And we are so just like in sync and aligned with our values and our family of like where we're trying to go. And when you realize that's the greatest gift of all, and like, and truly, even in marriage, of how, I mean, the bride of Christ,
Yeah.
the imagery is through marriage. And I think when you get to that point, and he and I were like, wow, like, look at what it's not perfect. It's not perfect, never is. But when you try really hard and there's that respect there and you know their heart and where they're coming from, and likewise, like, that's the gift. And that is what is on the other side of success.
Golly. It's cool. Sometimes when I talk to people on the show, I get a chance and I have like my God shot. If you've ever
Yeah.
done the Bible recap, that's my
Yeah.
term is God shot. But I sit here and think, okay, for people that don't know, you're married to Michael. Michael played at Clemson, right? Tight end.
He did.
And then
He
did he
did.
play for the Falcons?
He did. He played
Yeah.
for the Falcons.
So I've got a couple buddies that similar situation, played high
Mhm.
level college, Division 1,
Yeah.
go to the NFL and they get cut. Boom.
Yeah.
And their
Happens all the time.
life as they knew it was over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I sit here and I think, and hearing you talk about your story, and I
Mhm.
wonder, and maybe I'll have to have Michael on the show too,
Yeah.
but how cool is it that God put you and Michael together? Michael was going to eventually lose his career in football.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not necessarily losing your career in sports, but you're
Mhm.
you're making a conscious decision to lose your
Sure.
career in sports to a degree. And
To a
y'all
degree,
have
yeah.
that common bond through sports. Like, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
It was that's obviously what, like, brought us together. It's kinda cool when he was playing on Sundays, we had the exact same schedule, right? Like, we were off, or I would be flying back on Sundays, and I'd just go either, we had a when it was Pittsburgh, we had a place in Pittsburgh, and I'd just fly right there, put my luggage in, and then go straight to the stadium, and then we were both off on Mondays and Tuesdays. It was actually, like, really cool, and
Yeah.
then I would leave on Wednesdays and go wherever, or if I was doing a sideline game, it'd be Thursday or Friday, depending on location. Anyway, but we shared that, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately we shared, and this is why, I mean, he's so, I envy so many qualities that he has, but he is so rooted in who he is.
Mm.
And he never got caught up in the identity. I mean, but his story alone is like his story to share, but he was never one of these top tier guys. He wasn't, yeah, God, he still gives me crap about when I had my fantasy team and he was playing for the Falcons and I came to draft a tight end and I took Tony Gonzalez and not him.
Good move.
It was literally like one of our first ever fights. And then now looking back, he's like, "Oh yeah, I would have taken him too."
Oh, that's so good.
But his story is very similar to mine. I mean, the Lord just like made it really clear of for whatever it's worth, his MO is like he always has to work harder than everyone else, and he did. And yeah, I mean, he got to play 5 years and get vested, which isn't, I mean,
Yeah, that's
that's
hard.
not normal. It's hard to do, and people don't realize how hard that is to do. But one of the coolest things was he chose to walk away on his own.
Yeah.
And it was the same year that we both were like, okay, cool. We're venturing into this new season where you're retiring and your job's gonna look a little different moving forward of what you're wanting to build, what we're wanting to build for our family and our future. And then the same with me. And it was so cool, like being able to do that together and then to sit back like what 10 years later and see where we're at. I mean, it's
Uh,
just he's so good and so
yeah.
faithful and honestly it feels undeserving at a lot of times.
Yeah. It's funny hearing you talk. I got so many things I need to go home today and just pour out my heart to Allie, you know.
Eh,
Sometimes sometimes I just think that I forget, and I'm sure a lot of people do, of looking at how God has worked in your life because sometimes when you're
yeah.
in the thick of it, it's hard to see that. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Of course.
hearing you talk, it's really cool. And I know a lot of people that, you know, that was their story. God just it was complete. It was a complete God thing. You know,
Yeah. Well,
talking about
he's our
the web.
rescuer. I
Yeah.
say he's our rescuer,
Yes.
and I think sometimes when you're drowning, you can't necessarily see the life vest, but he's there
Mhm.
and he is. He's our ultimate rescuer and healer.
It really is incredible, and it's maybe somebody's listening that doesn't know Jesus and interested about how that works out, and there's a lot of peace that comes with following the Lord, and there's a lot of things that you have to give up, you know, and that's
Yeah.
scary, and you clearly have done that also.
Mm.
So, I know talking to you, you're kind of entering into a new season of life now. All 3 of
Yeah.
your kids are finally in school, right? And
Yes.
one of the
Yes.
things that you said is you're kind of in a posture of, "Okay, Lord, what's next?" So
Yeah.
what's next? What's going on in life right now?
It's a really cool season. I'm about to hit the ground running with our high school football show, and Georgia is a hotbed for high school football. I
Mhm.
say that, and I think the average person out there, I don't know where they might be living, might be like, "Oh, what?" Yeah, no, we there's NIL in Georgia for high school, and I mean, it's comparable to Texas, comparable to California.
Yeah.
It's taken very seriously here, and I've had the coolest honor of this is my 15th year. So
Mhm.
it's when I came to Georgia, it was because I was the Falcons reporter, and they offered me a job, Georgia Public Broadcasting, to cover high school football. I sat behind a desk and I was doing anchor work at 22 years old,
Right.
um, while simultaneously doing the Falcon stuff and in-game hosting. And my heart for it, Tyler, has never left. I love it so much. I love our crew. I love the coaches. Like I saw you had Niblet on there. I mean, like, I've covered Gainesville.
Yeah.
It is such a fun community that I just feel so honored that I get to share those stories year after year because it's just life-giving. It's
Yeah.
absolutely life-giving. So right now, that's my fall and coaching 5U soccer, which I'm not saying that, works get you into heaven, but I'm fairly convinced that when you're a soccer coach with 5, 4, and even like a few 3-year-olds, man,
Yeah.
he's watching. I hope he's watching and he sees my patience.
Might get you a better view, you know, in that
Because
mansion.
here's the thing, like, you pray for patience, he's never just gonna give it to you, he's gonna put you in positions to you practice the patience. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I love it. And yeah, my posture is like this.
Yeah.
I don't know what's coming down the pike, but right now I am just resting in the fact that he makes it super clear. So that's what I'm doing.
I think that's great. You know, and I think something too that's cool about being in the profession you're in and being around these players and these coaches, and like you talked about Josh Niblet, is
Mhm.
you're around really some super mega top performers, you know, people that I
Yeah.
consider, you know, the term that the kids use these days is built different. And then,
Yeah.
but what's so cool is when you get around people that are at that level that are high
Mm.
performers and also very, very rooted in your faith, in their
Yeah.
faith.
Yeah.
It's fun, right? It's fun to be around those
Mhm.
type of people. It just makes you naturally want to be better at what you're doing.
100%. Yeah.
So, what would you say to young women
Mm,
in general, who are
yeah.
navigating identity, comparison, and faith, whether it be in the
Yeah.
spotlight or not in the spotlight? And I feel like, unfortunately, in the world that we live in now, the spotlight doesn't have to be ESPN. It can be Snapchat, Instagram, just showing up
All
at
the
school.
things. Yeah. I mean, I think through the lens of my daughter with this. I mean, she's 8, gonna be 9, but I think you just it's such a powerful question because everyone comes from different circumstances, different demographics, different household situations, and I
Mhm.
think at the end of the day, it's remembering that no one is going to completely fill your cup and give you what you need to get through the day, to get through whatever mean comment or awkward friend situation or bad relationship other than the word. I mean, there's nothing else that can fill your cup and give you the joy and delight than through that. Now, my biggest prayer, and especially for my daughter, is that she continues to surround herself with friends that keep her flame burning. And that
Right.
she's one of those that keeps their flame burning, right? That she's
Yeah.
not blowing people's candles out, flames out, right? And I think again that comes down to helping building confidence, right? It helps these young girls build confidence. And with confidence, like when a girl has confidence, the sky's the limit, Tyler. Like the sky is the limit. And as parents, we're their coaches, right? Like we're their coaches that we should be encouraging them with, verses and scripture of encouragement, like
Mm.
do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you always. You can do all things through Christ that gives you strength. And the more that they believe that, the more that they do that, and it's so cool as a parent to hear those repeated back. And you're going, see, there you go. There you go. But the more that we tell them that, and the more that they have other people around them that are telling them that, whether it's teachers, coaches, friends, parents, that the parents that you trust your kids that they're going to their house, the
Yeah.
more that they have that around them and that they're feeling like a warm hug, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not always going to be there, but the little moments where you can just sprinkle and sprinkle and sprinkle when the torrential downpour comes, that
Yep.
they have a body of armor on them and they are
Mm.
equipped. And I think too, for women to know that it's never going to be balanced. I feel like that was always a question that I would ask these women that were in front of me that I idolized, on TV. I'd be like, how do you balance it all? Tell me. And they're like, yeah, you can't.
You can't.
Right. And they're like, be where you're planted. So when you're on TV, be locked into that game. It's hard. Try not to worry about what's going on at home, even though you're going to anyway. And then on the flip side, when you're at home, be planted in your home. And I think that there's no magic equation of how to make it work. You just have to stay rooted and planted in who you are and whose you are and know that it's never going to be perfect. Right? It's never going to be perfect, but as long as you feel equipped again with that armor on you, being able to go against the day, then you're set. And I will say, like my hardest times, Tyler, and the times where I'm like, I slipped up there is when I wasn't rooted, right?
Mm.
It was when I wasn't rooted. It's when a lot of times it's like, when my family's not with me or something like that. And I'm like, okay, where are my people? Right. And instead of going, where are my people? That's when I just need to get on my knees and ask for help,
Yeah. Wow.
you know?
Yeah, I do. And man, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up,
Uh
I
huh.
always ask everybody before we get into like my last couple like fun questions, my rapid fire
Yeah.
session is where you're sitting right now today
Hmm.
in this moment. What is your definition of success?
Oh gosh, it's cool because if you would have asked me this 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it would have been different. It would have been something very specific. It wouldn't have been me looking at you and saying, "Tyler, I have it all. I have it all, and that is success." And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's, money in a bank account. It doesn't mean that it's, you're driving this car or wearing these shoes or you're on this network or you're covering this game or you have, some celeb phone number, right? Like or someone follows you on Instagram or X or whatever it is. Like
Mm,
that's not success.
right.
Success is at the end of the day when you're putting your head on your pillow and you're going, I gave it all I got today and I loved really well.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Very cool. Very cool conversation. All right, let's finish up with a few fun questions here.
Okay.
All right, rapid fire. So, my first one is what is the best sports moment you've ever witnessed live or been a part of?
Best sports moment I've witnessed live. I mean, listen, I got to cover when Alabama was winning all those championships. That was pretty fun. That
Yeah.
was so cool, whether it was, I mean, Pasadena, Miami, gosh, what was the other one? Was it
There's been so
New
many. New
Orleans? New
Orleans.
Orleans.
Yeah.
There were so many, but being able to cover that for television was so cool. Okay, wait, sorry, back up. This is that I've been to, so, like,
Just like if you could think of one sports moment that you're just like, I will never, that one will never leave me, what would it be?
okay,
Or
yeah.
two, this is fun. It's supposed to be fun.
I know, having to narrow all of that down is really hard.
That's so great. Good
Okay,
for
you know
you.
what? I'm gonna go personal on this. And
Okay.
honestly, they lost in the playoffs against the Ravens. Ravens went on to win the Super Bowl. I think for me, I think it was watching Michael play his last game.
Yeah. Cool.
I think it was watching him play his last game in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
My dad was there and just like standing on the field of being like, I'm so dang proud of you.
Yeah.
Being able to see it from the lens of like just knowing his story and
Hmm.
knowing the road that he went through, whether it was in Atlanta to the opportunities that he was given in Pittsburgh and like how well they loved him and supported him. And,
Mm,
we're always going to root for someone like Coach Tomlin. And I think that that was probably one of the coolest moments
that's epic.
was knowing that, like,
That is
I
a
think
great
this
one.
is the end, and when, like, packing up and leaving Pittsburgh and the snow was falling, it's like, this was, like, exclamation point,
Man.
end scene. Yeah, that was
All right.
cool.
I know you're from a big Italian family. So if you
Yep.
had one meal that you could cook to impress anybody, what's on the table?
Listen, it's gonna be easy, and it's not impressing my kids because I married a white man. He's very white, and he doesn't like red sauce, so that almost did it for me.
Oh,
But he likes
no.
my suka, and it was my grandmother's recipe. I got it on our wedding day, which was super special, and
Yeah.
that's it. It's super simple. It's just suka and meatballs. It's
There
red
you go.
sauce and meatballs, and then, I'm into this. I'm took the sourdough Kool-Aid, so it's making bread, but
We're
I'll
on
do
that train.
focaccia bread. It's a good train. It's a delicious train. And, so yeah, just like homemade focaccia and suka meatballs.
All right.
That's
Next time
it.
you're in
Easy.
Birmingham, the Rutledges will come over for dinner.
I'll send you some. I'll send you some.
Man. All right. Last question. If you get a week's paid vacation, all expenses included, are you going to the lake or are you going to the beach?
All expenses paid. I feel like I wanna go to Italy. Is that an option?
Yeah. Heck yeah, it is. Let's
Can
go.
I just go there?
Perfect. There's beaches
No,
and lakes in Italy.
listen, one thing about my personality is you ask me that question, I'm like, "Okay, I need to know what time of year it is. I need to know, like, are my kids with me or is it just Michael? Like, I need to know." And then I'm like, "God, why is my daughter the way that she is?" She's the
Oh,
exact same way.
goodness.
So, I would need to know all of that information before making my decision.
I respect that. Man, that's
Yeah.
good stuff. Nikki,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the conversation today. I thoroughly
Yeah,
enjoyed
this was
this,
great.
and your time has been greatly appreciated. And I wish you absolutely nothing but the best. So thanks for coming on.
Hey, I just want to say to you, for someone that has done a podcast, I'm just really proud of you. I'm
Thank you.
proud of you for bringing on really, this is not from, but like bringing on really great guests and
Yeah.
conversations that you've had and waters that you've navigated.
Mm.
But also, Tyler, like sharing your own story. It's super raw and real and hard. And I'm really proud of you. And I
Thank you.
love that you have a platform where you're having conversations of people and talking about successes, failures, and faith. And I think the world's hard,
Yeah,
right? And it's not always kind to us. And to create a space to give people hope and light and to know that, they can tackle tomorrow no matter what happened, the day before, that's success.
that's awesome. Thank you, Nikki.
Yep. Yeah.